And, it was a very difficult day. And so at some point during Mass, the parish priest of my hometown, whose name is Christopher Eze, and my parish, the parish is St. Paul's in Aba, and Aba is in Njikoka in Anambra State. So he takes the microphone and he starts talking about me. And you're sitting there kind of trying not to cry because you're thinking about your mother. Yeah. And so I was really taken aback to hear my name. And I'm going to paraphrase him, of course, because I cannot quote him, but sort of, Chimamanda said the church collects money too much. Chimamanda insults the church. Chimamanda doesn't want us to feed the widows. Chimamanda, it was just really shocking. And his tone was very hostile.
At your mom's funeral?
Yes. We were there, our guests were there who had come to honor my mother. I had actually been holding my brother's hand because we were both trying very hard not to cry in the church. And this man just goes off and just... So I was so shocked and so taken aback. And I should say, to give context, is that he was referring to an interview that you talk about, which I had done months before. Mm-hmm. And, I think for me, I've never been afraid of criticism. Nobody enjoys criticism, of course. But it's never been something that has made me decide not to speak my mind. If I believe in something, I will say it. And so the fear of criticism is not something I have. So if this priest had written something to criticize me, even shouted at me at any other venue but the Holy Mass at my mother's funeral, it would have been okay. I really would not have minded. But to do this at my mother's funeral, my mother died on a Monday. The Sunday before, the day before, my mother was in that church, seated in front, and this man said Mass. My mother went to offertory, my mother went to communion. The next day, she died. And this man did not think my mother deserved the respect, the basic courtesy of having a funeral that would not turn into a raucous market. Because that's what happened. People got upset. So anyway, after he started talking about me, I then thought that I needed to address what he had said. So I asked for the microphone. It took a long time before he allowed them to give me the microphone. And so I went up to the altar and, I tried very hard to be very calm and very respectful. His tone had been ugly and I didn't want to descend to his level. So very calmly, I told the congregation, I think that this man has misrepresented me. I said to them, I give money to this church and he knows that. So my point is not about not wanting to support the church. My point is about ambushing people, forcing them. This man has collections in which he says, if you have 10 naira, come up. Villagers who cannot eat. And so you make them feel that somehow if they do not bring the money, they do not get the special blessing that you get when you come and kneel in front of the altar. So I said to them, you people in this church know that there have been times when the door has been locked because there's a special collection going on. You lock the doors to force people to bring money. And particularly in a church where there are people who can afford it and who are very happy and willing to give. Why do you need to ambush poor villagers who can hardly feed themselves?
So sorry, what's the idea of locking the doors?
Locking the door so you cannot leave until the fundraising is over.
Wow.
Yes. But to be fair, it happened with the previous priest, but it happened in that church. And that's actually one of the reasons I decided I'm done going to church, because there was just not, what's the point of church? We should go to get hope, comfort,
inspiration, and
peace.
Like that. Yeah.
But you go there and there's so much talk about money, right? And again, it's really important for me to say no, I didn't want to, because I actually had wanted to say a lot more about the priest that day, but I decided that no, I shouldn't, right? Because I thought there is no point. I did make the point that I had given money to the church. I did not tell them other things, such as how this man had bullied my family when my father was buried about money. How when we presented a cow to the church, he was upset. And why was he upset? We should have monetized it. He wanted the money. how when I gave money to the church for the bazaar, because I knew that this man always wants cash, I made sure to go and get cash. Because if you write a check or want to do a bank transfer, he doesn't want that. He wants the cash. And so after I spoke and I sat down, there are two men who were there, prominent men, one prominent man from my hometown, another man who was the chairman of the local government. They both stood up and said they wanted to speak as well. And they said to the priest, this is wrong. We're here to mourn her mother. You shouldn't say this. This is wrong. After they sat down, the priest took the microphone and continued talking about me. Chimamanda should not be saying anything. Chimamanda, Chimamanda. It was unbelievable. And at this point, the ordinary people in the church just got upset. They started shouting. They said, Father, uzugozie, Father, that's enough. This man just would not stop. My husband is usually a very calm person. My husband is known to be really even-toned. But that day in church, he was incensed. He got up. My husband was banging on the pew, shouting at the priest, telling him, stop it, this is wrong. My brother wanted to fight the priest. So we got up, my whole family, our friends who had come to honor my mother, and we walked out of the church. So that's how my mother's funeral Thanksgiving Mass ended, like that.
Wow. One can only imagine that kind of experience. But how has this impacted the grieving process for you?
It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And like I said, it's not even about me. I think that my mother deserved so much better. My mother deserved respect. My mother deserved courtesy. My mother never did anything to that man. My mother gave to the church. My mother gave to him. I can tell you stories of my mother. Father, we should take drinks. My mother, she deserved better. And so it's been very, very painful, very, very painful. And I think also the way that my mother died, like I said, on the Sunday she was in church. The Friday before she was at Stations of the Cross. On the Sunday she was fine, and then Monday she's dead. And I just think my mother deserved better. I cannot help but think of, one of the Beatitudes. It's the second Beatitude. Yeah. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. We were not comforted. And that priest failed. He failed terribly at his duty. Instead of comforting us, he increased our pain. My siblings and I were so bitter. And I cannot tell you how, I should be allowed to mourn my mother in peace. But I haven't been able to. I haven't been able to because of what this man did. And I haven't been able to because this man has not faced any consequences for his action.
What steps have you taken after that time? Because I can imagine that experience at the funeral and then walking out. Did he try to reach you, to try to explain to you why he said whatever he said and all of that? What happened after that time?
No, he did not try to.
Yeah, good evening, my viewers. I just have a few things to just talk about this evening. I watched Chimamanda's I Am Not Strong in the Face of Grief by Chimamanda. It's an interview she granted after a mom's burial on TVC News, Nigeria. After watching that interview, I think it's something we should look at and talk about a little bit. And my point here is the honor and the respect that we give to people who do not deserve it. I think it's getting out of hands. First, she mentioned on her mother's service of song, a bishop stood up and begin to rant. Not just that, even when they were so angry and left the church, he continued saying that he too has also written books and he has also traveled out. So what is so special about her? You can see that this is pure envy and jealousy. Even if he wants to have a problem with Chimamanda, or not on that day when she was mourning her mom. I also think this is also a lesson. If you're close to the church and you have any occasion coming up, either burial or whatever, you can choose who officiates. If they have chosen who will officiate in their mother's burial to honor their mom, I don't think the priest would have done what he has just done. I don't think it's okay on that day. Okay, even if he wants to run her down or say all sorts of things just like what he did, not even in the presence of visitors, what is he trying to do? Belittle her? Drag her to the mud? Or what? This is very, very wrong. The priest is not God, neither is he Jesus Christ. So that you have that position, you're supposed to act as your master, whom you claim to be your master, Jesus Christ. Never on earth can Jesus act the way he acted. So, the respect we give to these people that don't deserve it is something to look at. I'll end this video here. See you in my next video. Chimamanda, be strong. Forget about what you went through. Move on, because you're bigger. That's it. What I know is what is wrong is wrong. There's no how you can paint what is wrong and say is right. Yeah, bye.